During the 19th century, European powers were obsessed with colonizing developing countries, particularly parts of Africa and Asia. France, one of the major colonizing countries at the time, traveled to the western part of Africa and became interested with the Fon people of Dahomey. Because the Dahomeans were one of Africa's most powerful pre-colonial states at the time, France established a mutual relationship with them, so they both began to benefit from each other. Dahomey and France had a strained relationship because they were deeply involved in a war that claimed many lives. Why exactly did they fight after many years of friendship? Do you think France was able to defeat them alone? This is From the Beginning, your go-to channel for historical stories, facts, and monuments. Join us as we dive into the story of France and the Fon people of Dahomey. The First War. Because they were a lesser power in Africa, the people of Porto Novo were dominated and paid taxes to the Kingdom of Dahomey. Porto Novo is a small town near a port known for mass slave transportation. She had always tried to cut herself off from the claws of the Fon people of Dahomey during the 18th century, but because they were not as organized and powerful, she couldn't win any of the battles until France came into the story. France arrived in West Africa in 1851 and decided to sign a treaty with the Fon people of Dahomey, benefiting commercially from them and even sending missionaries. Dahomey was one of the most organized and powerful kingdoms in Africa from 1600 to 1904, because they won most of their battles, had good taxation systems, secured international trades and diplomatic relations with higher kingdoms and colonies. The main reason for their power, prominence, and fame among Africans and Europeans was that they traded people and even sold their men or anyone they thought that would make a good and obedient slave. In 1861, French anti-slavery navy ships invaded Porto Novo, attempting to end all forms of slavery in the region. The French activities in Porto Novo enraged the slave trade masters, Dahomey, who rejected their interference with their business. Porto Novo anticipated a war with Dahomey and requested French protection in 1863, which she received. France was conquering more slave trade ports, including the port of Cotonou, which they claimed as their own, infuriating Dahomey's local officials. They ignored France's warnings to abandon slavery and even continued to use the ports for their business. Tofa I seized power in Porto Novo in 1874 and re-established diplomatic relations with France, ensuring that they were no longer tributaries to Dahomey. In 1889, Dahomey attacked a small valley in Oime, which was actually under French protection. King Behanzin dispatched one of the Dahomey Amazons, an all-female army, to assassinate the village chief. She bit his throat and beheaded him while wrapping his head in the French flag. That's an insult to France, isn't it? Before this incident, France had warned the Fon people of Dahomey to remove their officials and break off from ruling over Cotonou. But they flagged this request, which resulted in the outbreak of the First War between the French force in Africa and Dahomey. As a result, France mobilized 399 soldiers and began arresting all Dahomey officials in Cotonou. Dahomey was displeased with France's actions and dispatched warriors on March 4th at about 5 in the morning to rebel against the French colonies and reclaim Cotonou. They fought for over 4 hours, losing up to 291 people in the battle with France in Cotonou. Dahomey could not win the war due to France's organized military strategy and ammunition power, so King Behanzin ordered their army to leave Cotonou and attack Porto Novo instead. The French force was too powerful, so Dahomey decided to retreat and went back to Abomey, the capital of Dahomey. France won the war, and Dahomey could no longer rule over Cotonou or Porto Novo. They signed a treaty admitting that they no longer controlled Porto Novo, but that the French protectorate did. Monthly payments of 20,000 francs were made to Dahomey's Behanzin in exchange for denouncing his custom rights and ensuring peace between all of them. This treaty was a good move that killed 2 birds with 1 stone, but do you think it will last long? The Second War. Yes, there was peace for others to see, but not in the minds of the people. Dahomey had always wanted to return and reclaim all of the territories that the French had taken from them. They must return to that powerful, wealthy, and undefeated kingdom. They couldn't afford to repeat the mistakes of the First War, so they secretly prepared for war with modern ammunition, unlike the first time when they fought hand-to-hand. After regrouping and reorganizing, the Dahomey returned to attack the Ome Valley, which was still under French protection. Victor Ballet, a Porto Novo resident, was dispatched to the Ome Valley to investigate. However, upon arrival his ship was attacked and forced to leave the valley. The French protectorate issued warnings to King Behazine, who ignored them, and the Second War between France and Dahomey started. France appointed Alfred Amédée Dodds as commander of the war, and he gathered over 2,000 men to fight. The Protectorate Kingdom of Porto Novo also contributed approximately 2,600 men to aid in the defeat of Dahomey. The Dahomeans were so prepared because they purchased up to 6,000 rifles and even machine guns from German merchants. France learned of the sale of these ammunitions, and on June 15, 1892, blocked Dahomey's coast to prevent the sale of these ammunitions. They then opened fire and advanced towards Abomey, the capital of Dahomey. The French invasion force decided to assemble at Dogba on September 14th, but they were intercepted by Dahomey and fought for hours. The Dahomey army lost many soldiers, but only 5 Frenchmen were killed. Another battle broke out at Pagessa, and this time the Dahomeys, led by King Behazine, were serious, killing about 40 men on the field. However, the French invasion army was far too powerful and well organized for them. Around 200 Dahomey soldiers, including the Dahomey Amazons, were killed. Dahomean forces attempted to slow down and prevent the French invasion force from reaching their capital during the march to Abomey. So on October 6th, the French force had another encounter with them at Adagon, resulting in the deaths of 6 men and the injury of 32 others in the French force. During the war at Adagon, the Dahomey army suffered greatly, losing 86 Dahomeans and 417 Dahomey Amazons. The Amazons were tasked with attacking the French force as soon as they were able to enter Abomey. Dahomey and the French force fought on the outskirts of Cana from November 2nd to the 4th. When King Behazine realized how badly they had lost, he dispatched specially trained Amazons to attack the officials of the French force, but they failed and were forced to surrender. So, on November 5th, King Behazine sent a truce mission to the French force to reconcile and allow peace to reign, but it was ignored. To avoid falling into the hands of foreign invaders, King Behazine set fire to the village and fled before the French force arrived in Dahomey on November 16th. The Dahomey were brutally defeated by the French, and were unable to reclaim power after Dahomey was incorporated into one of the kingdoms colonized by the French Protectorate. Despite his efforts to rebuild the Dahomey Amazons, King Behazine was executed at Martinique, and the throne was given to his brother, Gaucheli, by the French Protectorate. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment, and until next time, bye.